Welcome to Behavioral Health in the New Normal, a podcast developed by Prestige Community Resources, aimed at bringing healing back to our community through knowledge, expert advice, and positive messaging. The show is a joint venture between the Department of Behavioral Health and Prestige Community Resources, funded by SAMHSA in response to the challenges currently impacting our communities. Hosted by Paul Wells Sr., who uses over 30 years of extensive clinical social work experience to conduct insightful interviews with experts and professionals on a wide range of topics that impact the Washington, D.C. community. From behavioral health crisis to education to financial hardship and anything in between. This show will provide information and insights that will surely make a difference in your life.
Boy, oh boy, am I excited today. We have a native Washingtonian, a small business owner who's going to share her story around how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted her business. Her name is Lynette Voss, fondly known as Miss Fifi. Miss Fifi, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're so excited to have you. As you know, this is a collaboration between Prestige Community Resources and the Department of Behavioral Health. And the intention of the show is to kind of educate and to share experiences with the community of how the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting us. Of course, Prestige is a mental health clinic, and so we might speak to just how emotionally this has impacted you. But you know, I was reading your bio, and it would probably take me 2 episodes to get through the entire bio. It's very impressive, and I'm really respectful of your accomplishments and just your journey to this point. But could you share with the audience today kind of, well, let's start with your background. Where were you born? How did you grow up? What school did you go to? Can we start there?
Sure, we can. Sure, we can. Well, I was born in DC. I think it was George Washington. I usually get the hospitals mixed up, Georgetown or George Washington University
Oh, yeah.
Hospital. And of course, we lived in DC all my childhood. And so we went from, well, the house that I remember was with the little white picket fence around, right on Maple View Place, right around the corner from the Art Center where the shop is. So right at the very top of the hill on Maple View. And so I spent most of my childhood there. And it was a healthy childhood. My dad worked. My mom was a homemaker, so there were 7 of us, so she
Oh, my
stayed home with the
goodness.
children. So
Where did you fall in age group?
I'm a middle child, so I
Okay.
have some middle child issues.
Oh, yeah. I
I
am
was
as well.
the 5th child. So now I used to have it down pat. I'm the 5th child, but the 4th girl. Because it's
Oh,
5 girls and 2 boys. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
5
Okay.
girls and 2 boys. And I went from Nichols Avenue
Mm-hmm.
to Savoy Elementary to Douglas Junior High.
Look at
And
that.
then instead of going to, I think we all went to, in that area, we went to Ballou, but I took this test to be able to go to Chamberlain, which was a vocational school. So I went to
Yeah.
Chamberlain and
Okay.
took the
And
county.
why Chamberlain? What was the interest there vocationally?
Well, I think because of the vocations,
Hmm.
I was really, really good in math,
Okay.
and they offered accounting. So that's what I was interested in.
Now
So
that's real interesting. I want to talk about this transition because your business is actually in the fashion industry. I think
it
you
is.
own a company called the Vintage and Charm
Yep.
Fashion Store Boutique.
Yep.
Yeah. So I want to hear more how you went from good in math and accounting into fashion. Uh-huh.
Okay, it's an easy transition and story. Well, having 5 sisters, like I said, I was the 4th. Well, 4 sisters. I was the 4th girl, and so I had
Yes.
3 older sisters. So there was lots of hand-me-downs.
Hmm.
So and I was, I'm the tallest girl in my family. I'm 5'9", so I was always the tallest, and
Yeah.
we always joked about mom hooking up with the mailman because I was so tall. I'm so I was so much taller than all of my siblings and my
Yes.
parents. And but my dad, I never got to meet his brothers, but he said his brothers were really tall, and his uncles, not his brothers, but his uncles were really tall.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I got the hand-me-downs, but they were always high water. I know you remember that
Oh,
term.
I sure do.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
So of course I was so thin. I was a bean pole. So, mom had to either sew them up or pin them up. And,
Okay.
I got teased in school about
Hmm.
having high water pants and all that. So, you develop these self-consciences when you go to school, and kids can be very cruel, of
Oh, they
course.
sure can.
And so they teased me all the time. So my thing was, when I grow up, I'm gonna be, this fashion diva. I'm gonna have my own
Hmm.
clothes. I'm not gonna have to wear hand-me-downs anymore. And of
Hmm.
course, my mom being a homemaker, she frequented thrift stores to buy our clothes.
Yeah, sure.
So, and she would let me go with her. So I just loved it. And I was more drawn to the older clothing, you
Interesting.
because I used to like to watch the old movies,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
back in the 40s, and yeah, the movies. So, and she would buy me a piece or two, as she could afford it. And I would wear them to school and get laughed at, but I didn't care because I just felt so good in those old clothes, like I was in one of the movies. So that
Hmm.
kind of directed my attention into fashion and
Hmm.
wanting to have my own clothing, and just be this fashion diva. And the funny
Yeah.
thing about it is I grew up and frequented some of those same thrift shops instead of going to, the big box stores and buying brand new clothing.
So I
So
appreciate you sharing with us just kind of how that divine inspiration, that's the kind of you were always there and always had this natural tendency towards the vintage piece. How
yes.
did you prepare yourself to get in the industry, and what was that professional development? What did that look like?
Okay, so going back to the math and being in accounting,
Hmm.
so you usually stick with what you know, if you will. And because there's a lot of college students. Um, Another one of my experience, I worked at Nordstrom's part-time for 6 years, while being a full-time accountant at Greatest Southeast Community Hospital. But I couldn't wait to get to the Nordstrom's job because I
That was
loved it so
that was
much.
your passion,
Being
right?
around fashion and shopping for customers and spending their
Yeah.
money, not mine.
Hmm.
And I majored in, I went to UDC, so it was all DC, stayed
That's
DC.
right.
And I majored in business administration with a concentration in accounting, because they, at the time, they didn't have an accounting degree. So
Okay.
it was a concentration in accounting. So the whole business part came from the degree. Um,
Okay.
my passion was the fashion part. I think I pride myself, and with the guidance of a friend at the time, but I do pride myself in still being in my field. I was
Hmm.
a senior accountant at Greater Southeast Community Hospital, but being able to have a part-time job that allowed me to, explore my passion,
That's
which was,
right.
yeah, because so most of, yeah, I'm sorry.
And explore it safely, meaning you have the stability of the full-time job while
Exactly,
you explore the passion.
exactly.
I believe as a therapist, we don't have to do either or. We can do both, and it's so you found a way to merge and delicately balance the two. The
Yes,
realities of I gotta make sure I'm financially stable, but I do want to pursue my passion.
yes.
But that's a lot of hours. That's a lot of demands on your time, on your family. How did you make that all fit?
Well, I was a single woman, and of course, my family would complain all the time because we are
Mm,
very close-knit family. So,
okay.
of course, the trips to mom and dad's house definitely was reduced, but I got it in where I could.
Okay.
And
Okay.
but being a single woman in her 20s and wanting to explore her own, so that's
Yes.
how I was able. But I was definitely working all the time. But
Hmm.
being used to a large family, I remember before I got the Nordstrom's job and having to go home to the apartment. And of course, I would go to my parents' house from work sometimes too, just not to be lonely, but it was,
Right. Right.
I mean, who wants to go home to an empty apartment, especially after
Yeah.
coming from such a large, close knit family? So
Hmm. Hmm.
that took up some of the void, of going home, just to my little studio. And,
Right. I
it
get
was a
it.
nice studio, but,
Right.
going home and, just kind of being alone. I was such a people person. So,
Hmm.
so
So,
that'll,
so what
yeah.
did it take for you to start your own business? So I understand you branched out and you opened up your own store.
I
What
did.
did that take? And first of all, I know it took confidence, faith, and a lot of strategic planning. But
Absolutely.
talk about that experience opening the store for the first time.
Okay, so it was a gradual process,
Okay.
starting little businesses here, all in the fashion industry. And
Hmm.
it's kind of, people kind of demand it on you because shopping at the thrift stores, that's when I became a professional accounting. I went back to those same thrift stores and because I
Mm.
love the clothing so much. So I
Yeah.
purchased, of course, I had to wear suits. So I purchased the vintage suits and had them altered in a way to fit me perfectly.
Okay.
And, I would get stopped all the time in the street, at work. Where'd you get your suit? And people didn't believe me when I told them the thrift store. They thought I was
Yeah.
lying. Oh, well, because back in the day, when you had on something, classy and sassy, you didn't really want to give your secret away where you got
That's
it
right.
from. So,
Hmm.
people didn't believe me when I told them the thrift store. So I started a business then, called Lenny's Fashion. My nickname is Lenny from Lynette. And
Okay.
um, um, I guess thrift shops were taboo back in the day, and nobody wanted to go into them because they smelled like old people or they were dead people clothes, all kind of crazy stuff people
Oh
would say.
yeah.
So I would go shopping for them and have the clothes cleaned and steamed or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much how I started. So
Okay.
it started from that, and then I went to taking the clothing, having home parties where I would take the clothing to people's houses and sell it to it that way. That
Okay.
became
Wow.
a lot on me because things are so heavy, the racks and all
Yeah.
that.
Sure.
So I went from that to a flea market, an indoor flea market.
Mm.
So that was the first experience of a shop, if you will. And
Yes.
so an indoor flea market where I was able to lock my stuff up and keep it there. I was there for a year and I decided I wanted to shop. I'm going to do this. I'm going to find a location. So the first location was in Maryland, right behind what is the Roses now on right off of Forestfield Road.
Oh yeah.
On
Sure.
Garden.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there for 3 years. I sat down and met with the people, and of course you're afraid because you don't know they're gonna give you this building for your dream and your idea. But I had a really solid business plan,
Okay. Okay.
and and even before I did that, I actually did. So while I was doing the Lenny fashions and maybe um, the flea market,
Mm-hmm.
I also sold on eBay. eBay was probably the first, actually the first venture. And I don't mind saying that I was a beast on eBay. I mean, I
No,
was
it's okay. No,
yeah,
let's represent, acknowledge it. That's okay. I'm comfortable with
I
that.
was literally making my mortgage on eBay, and it came
Mm.
at a great time because I was a contractor, and I lost the contract.
Okay.
Well, the contract ended, so I was unemployed at the time. So, and I was doing eBay part time, so that allowed me to, still feed my family. I had
That's
children
right.
at the time, so, so it was a gradual process, but I was determined to get that first building, and I did. I just had an ironclad business plan, and nobody showed me how to do it. I just utilized the internet and figured it out,
There you
and
go.
they were impressed with my business plan, so they
Well,
gave.
I think a key word was determined, but you also had a strategic plan.
Yep.
You
Mhm,
obviously had some family support, but
mhm.
you were consistent. I hear the progression.
Yeah.
It went from phase one to phase two,
Yep.
phase three, and there was careful, deliberate planning. This
Yes.
just wasn't happen chance. Some people have a passion, a vision, and they think that the dream would just come to
Manifest.
fruition, right,
Mhm, mhm.
without some effort. But you worked and you worked hard on this.
I
Did
did.
you ever imagine opening the shop that you would, well, let me ask you, did you have employees? Did you have people working for you?
I did. In
Okay.
Maryland, I did, and I figured I've always wanted to reach out to young women, especially when I became. I mean, you never get married, to get divorced. But
Right, sure.
when I happened to have gotten to gotten divorced,
Hmm.
being that single mom, I think I found this fondness of single women. I would
Okay.
see while driving to work, standing at the bus stop with a stroller and a
Yeah.
baby on the hip and one in the stroller. So it's like, well, these young ladies do this, and this is my first time experiencing this. So I just developed this respect, this deeper respect for single moms. So I wanted to
Yeah.
reach out to them. So that's who I was employing. single
So
mothers in the Maryland shop.
I appreciate the sensitivity and the uh, just the you were prompted to help young women, but also comes with that some responsibility. You know, they become a part of your family, and you, as a
Yeah.
business owner, feel responsible for their stability. And
Yes.
so there's added pressure on you to make sure your business is viable
Hmm.
because now it impacts not just you, but those loved ones and those co-workers,
Yeah.
employees that work with you. Did you
Yeah.
feel some increased pressure when you started hiring staff to make sure this was working?
Yes, yes, I did. And you get a lot of advice from your family and they recommend you people. So it was a lot of teenage help, if you will. They
Yeah, yeah,
in last year of high school and needed to pay their, all their senior dues and all that. So yeah, I had my flow of teenage help as well. And you are under a lot of pressure because you want to help people out, but you really do need experience in sales in order to make sales.
right.
So and so that was a challenge to train, the younger people and keep them focused and
Oh, yeah.
you
So you're
know
grooming, you're mentoring, but there's also some performance expectations you have to impose on
absolutely,
them at the same time.
absolutely.
So again, another delicate balance.
Yeah.
So the business is going fairly well. You're happy, you're growing, and then the pandemic hits.
Yes. Yes.
And what impact did that have?
Okay, so like I said, I was at the my Maryland store for 3 years, and then I moved to the location I'm at now in Southeast because I never really wanted to be in Maryland.
Mm,
DC commercial property was just so expensive, but I happened on the location I'm in now in the art
mm,
center, and so I've been there for 7 years now, and so it just kind of hit us like a brick. I mean, we of course we all heard the news
hmm.
and about this pandemic, but I guess nobody ever expected the country to shut down.
I sure didn't.
So it
Right.
was a huge blow to everyone. I remember it was around my mom's birthday, which was my mom's birthday was March the 16th, and the
Mm.
art center shut down on the 14th.
Oh, it did. Okay.
So um
And it
yeah.
shut down as a result of an order by the city. The
Yeah.
mayor shut. Right.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm,
Okay.
as an order by the city. So now, me being always thinking quickly on my feet, of course, I resulted to online sales,
Okay.
and but your mental is affected. I mean,
In what way? Tell me about that. Anxiety,
I,
depression.
anxiety. See, I never want to say that D word because I mean, of course, I believe it exists, but
Okay.
but I mean, I guess pulling from the strength of my dad, who's in heaven now, just trying to stay focused and positive, being thanking God, for my family because my children are still home. They're in their early 20s. Daughter just graduated from college, and my son is working, and I got two grandbabies. So just thanking God for them surrounding me because from what I was experiencing mentally, I thought, I mean, I often had thoughts, wow, if my kids wasn't, here home with me, I mean, I wonder how my mental stability would be because I definitely suffered anxiety. And in the beginning, you're, although, I'm a Christian and you're taught not to fear, you
Yes.
know, certain things, but of course you're afraid. Nothing like this has ever happened before. So we don't know if the end of the world is coming. We don't know what's going
And that was
on.
the challenge
So
with it. There were so many unknowns, and you couldn't predict any outcomes. You didn't know any lengths of time. You couldn't even measure this and how
nope.
prolonged it would be, and
Yep.
how expansive it was going to be. So I think
Mhm.
it's fair to say that anxiety is real,
Yeah.
and it does sometimes interfere with your ability to even plan and to think through and problem solve because that energy can distract you and become overwhelming. So when
Yeah.
I think of anxiety, I think about sleep disturbance, some difficulty concentrating,
Mhm.
some worry, maybe, and it could progress into, I'm not eating right, I'm not sleeping right. It really can overwhelm you. And I
Yes.
appreciate you being honest about that because us in the African American community often don't talk about that aspect of life.
Yes.
We
Yes.
learn to be tough and to move forward and to go on in spite of. And I definitely appreciate you saying that I've empowered myself and out of the vision and support of my family and my dad and the memory of my dad. But the fact of the matter is, your business is not thriving and almost on the verge of not surviving.
Mhm,
What
mhm.
what's next for me? And you don't have many options when you're in a pandemic. It's not like you can switch plans or throw another business plan on the table because nothing's viable right now. It's hard to get anything going.
Yes.
So did you have to let staff go? Did you have some?
I did. I did. I mean, well, I mean, when we shut down, everything was shut down. So
Oh,
the two young ladies I had at the time that were working, I mean, they were shut down as well. They
what was
got
that
their
discussion
home.
like? How did that go?
Um, well, I happened not to be at the shop when one young lady was there, and
Mm,
she actually called me and said, they're shutting us down. So I went straight to my email and I read the email because I knew they would send one. And,
yeah,
of course it was due to the state's orders that, due to the pandemic, we were shut down. So, I mean, of course I didn't expect it to last long. I mean, nobody did. So, I just pretty much told her, okay, go home, text me when you get there, be safe, and I'll be in touch.
hmm.
And the art center reached out to all the businesses about not knowing when this would end, and we would be following the orders of the city and Mayor Bowers. So just stay tuned and keep
Yeah,
your eye out for emails. So that was pretty much it. And yeah, everybody knew that there was no money coming in, so there could be no paychecks being made. And
right,
of
right.
course, whatever pay that I owed the two young ladies when we got shut down, they were given, of course. But
Yeah, you honored that, I'm sure.
yeah,
So what now I did hear that, DC government was offering small business loans and various forms of assistance to small businesses. Were you able to apply and secure any assistance from DC?
I did. And
Oh, good,
I
good.
did apply. Well, I applied for 10 grand and got one. So, I mean, I was
Oh,
happy with that.
that's right.
I was happy with what I was given. And I figured because, maybe they felt that I was a very small business with only pretty much one and a half
Right.
employees at the time. So I guess that's what they felt I needed. Um, and that's what I got. I was happy for it. So, and
Okay.
so that was that. Yeah. So I,
So
I, I
what
received some
what is
assistance.
this what is the state of your business right now? Are you operational? Are you open for business?
We are. They opened back up the center back up July the 7th. So we
Okay.
were able to go back in. They gave us options to either open up part-time or full-time. They did give us, an adjusted rate of rent,
Okay.
which I was
Okay.
quite impressed with, yes. And I got on social media pretty much begging the customers to come back. Hey, remember us, please
Mhm,
come back.
mhm.
We're open for business now. Of course, people still afraid to come out, but
Certainly, certainly.
I'm trying to encourage folks that, but you feel selling a product, depending on what the product is, of course, you kind of feel, and because I was suffering anxiety and, and such sadness, for the world and for my customers and for the people who were trying to feed their families, I couldn't find it in myself to promote my business
Mm,
because what I provide is, yeah, clothing are necessary. I mean, I provide a specific type of, your vintage finds and, fun finds. And I just couldn't bring myself to promote my business on Instagram. To me, it was like taking money from families who were trying to feed their families. And so I couldn't do it, so I spent that entire time from March to July
mhm.
just wishing people well, my customers well, stay safe, and wear your mask, just giving affirmations to customers. And because I mean, now when I posted online, it was shopping websites such as Tradesy and Poshmark. Now
Okay,
those are literally websites people actually go to purchase stuff.
I see.
So I figured, hey, if they're going to go there to purchase, then they may purchase my stuff. But to go
Yes.
on Instagram and your Facebook page and to promote, it's kind of like a celebrity purchasing $1 million necklace and bragging
Right.
about it on Instagram while people are trying to, feed their families. And when
Yeah.
you see the lines
Well,
on the news every day and, that type of thing.
yeah. Well,
Not,
obviously, I mean, your sensitivity to the struggle, and everyone is in a struggle. You were
yes.
very sensitive to that and respectful of it. And
Exactly.
and so I understand that. But again, that conflicts with what a business, a business has a marketing design and you
Yep.
promote yourself. So there is some natural conflicts in maintaining a viable business, but yet being sensitive to the needs of your clientele and your customers.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but it's very respectful. In fact, when I was reading your bio, you do a lot for the community. And so
Hmm.
you get a lot of love from the community, and people have been reaching out to you and very supportive of your struggle.
Yes.
But that's really the result of you've always been impactful in your community. You've always
Yes.
given back to people. And
Yes.
and tell me a little bit about those experiences and how you found a way to give back. What's are some of the things you do or have done?
Well, it definitely came from my parents, my mom,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have a lot. I mean, my dad,
Right.
he worked for the government. He had it was one salary coming in, and he had to feed 9 people,
Or
including my parents. So, but my mom was always so neighborly, bringing in, kids from the neighborhood and feeding them and cleaning them up and giving them some of our old clothing. So we
yes.
saw that all our lives. So that it's in me.
Okay.
So there's a women's shelter next to the art center that I met the owner of the
Yes.
shelter, and I told her I wanted to help. So I provide clothing for the young ladies. Well, they're not all young. I mean, and they're not all in homeless situations. Some of them were in abusive situations. Some of them
That's right.
have master's degrees and, just have some issues, dealing at the time. So, but when I was able to provide them clothing for their interviews, when it was time for them to, to go find a job and go on an interview, I also taught life skill courses to the young ladies. So they had me in there every, well, there were different of the classes. So different times of the year, I taught them life skill classes, and I would have homeless people come off the street. This one lady came into my shop and told me
Mm.
she and her son didn't have a coat, and it was in the wintertime. So
Yeah.
I gave her a coat. I mean, what do you do in that situation? Do you say, oh, well? So, I gave her a coat for her and her son. So I,
Well, I know what Miss Fifi does. Uh, but that's what's remarkable about you, and that is not all business owners have that level of sensitivity and
yeah,
commitment to the community.
yeah,
Uh, and that is real. And so that's why I'm sure the community loves you, adores you, and also has supported you through your struggle. What kind of
yes.
feedback and support have you gotten from the community?
Well, doing a lot of reading while I was quarantining. Um,
Mhm.
I was able to basically trying to find ways to get your customers back, to bring
Right.
back that, that customer base and, those sales. So, and there were several ways, of course, but one way was just don't be afraid to ask for a donation. So I
Okay.
did go on social media, let everybody know I was back. And, I told I told my customers and, my audience that, hey, if you all gave $5, if you all cash at me $5, I'd be able to pay my rent for the rest of the year.
Ah,
So I started getting, cash apps. And of course, if people gave more than $5,
mhm,
so
mhm.
I was I mean, of course that makes you feel good that you've helped out people because, people will come in, and want a discount on something. And, I offer layaway. I'm one of the only shops in the center that does that. So, I provided layaway for folks, but they still want discounts and I give them discounts. So,
Yeah, yeah.
I was on my social media reminding them, hey, this is Miss Fifi, the one who gives you that discount, that good
Mhm.
discount when you want that item. So, remember me. So,
That's right.
yeah, yeah. So when they donated, I felt really good about it. And I had some businesses that donated too. So that feels really good when you're asking your followers,
Right.
for help and they're reaching out and helping you. So
And,
that feels
and we don't want to underestimate the importance and the value and the significance of that because they're donating to you with the pandemic as as the
Absolutely.
backdrop. So their
Absolutely.
future and is unknown as well, and they're in
Absolutely.
their own struggle,
Yep.
right? And so
Absolutely.
how much love and expression of love is that when they pull from themselves to say,
Mhm.
you know, Ms. Fifi, we care about you and your business. We value your
Mhm.
business. Here, let me share this with you to help support you. That
Yeah.
must have really had a positive impact on you. I know the best paycheck for me is when just a client says to me, "I appreciate you," and acknowledges that you know that I've had a positive impact on their life. It really motivates me to continue supporting the community.
Yeah.
So the business is still open.
Business is still open. And what I did is, I decided to develop, because when you open back up, you can't really afford to bring anybody on, because whether you're a large business or small business, you got to pay that $15 an hour
Gotta
to
do,
your staff for
gotta do
DC.
it. That's
So,
right.
so I developed this business exchange program. I said, well, you know what? Small businesses, they know my plight, they know my struggle. And so what the program entails is small businesses run your shop. So you carry their merchandise and you ask them to commit a day, one
Mm.
day, consistent day. So I came up with a program. So I have a business every day that runs the shop. And
Oh,
so it's
wow.
perfect. It works perfectly because basically, you know, I don't pay them a salary. The salary is that their payment for me is selling their merchandise. So,
Right.
and their payment to me is working the day. So it's an even exchange.
Yeah,
So
no, it makes
that
sense.
worked out. Yeah, that worked
Wow.
out. So the money that coming in, we get to keep,
Hmm, hmm.
So that's what I developed.
Can you remind our audience the name of your store and the location again, please?
It is Vintage and Charm Classic Clothing. It's located inside the Anacostia Art Center, 1231 Good Hope Road, Southeast.
And what are your operating hours at this time?
Okay, they have COVID hours now, but due to the pandemic. So they open at 10. The whole center opens at 10.
Okay.
'Cause there's the Hive downstairs. So there's other businesses with office spaces downstairs. So they open
See,
at 10 o'clock. The shops pretty much open at noon, but mine open at 11 because we try to catch that everlasting life traffic, the
I
breakfast
see.
and yeah, traffic. So we open at 11 to 5, but the center opens from 10 to 5.
How often are you on site in case people just want to come in, not only shop, but also talk with you and meet you?
Yes. Well, I'm now on site on Sundays, so they could come
Okay.
in and yeah, because a lot of my customers, want me there. So I make appointments, for the customers who will just shop with me and yeah, I'll be there.
No, I was just thinking too, how many male customers do you have? You have quite some men who come in interested in the fashion?
Now I do, and I used to have a male vendor who did the female version of what I do. So he provided
Mm,
all the vintage clothing for men, but he has his own space now.
okay.
And so I do have male clothing. They sell really quickly because, of course, I don't get as much in as
Right.
women. But I do have all type of ties and bow ties and shoes and suits and vintage pieces for men as well. So, and like I said, I do personal shop. So anybody could, give me a call and say, "Hey, you remember the leather jacket back in the day? I'm looking for one of those." So so I definitely can get you pretty much whatever you request.
I'm telling you, you're a survivor, and you've been very creative in modifying your business plan and your expectations with this pandemic. Have you had a COVID-19 test, by the way? Have you been tested?
I've been tested several times. One of my grandbabies during Halloween came in contact. Her grandmother, she actually owns a daycare, so she gets tested, I think, every week or every 2 weeks, and
Oh,
one of her
wow.
tests came up positive. So we got tested November the 10th,
Okay.
and everybody was negative. And unfortunately, um,
Yes.
I got tested again December 10th, and it came up positive. So
Okay.
I was the reason why I got tested because I was suffering some
What were some of the
symptoms,
symptoms that you
but I
experienced?
thought it was my allergies because I suffer really badly with allergies, and but unfortunately it came up positive, so I had to go to an
Oh,
extended stay to protect, my family. I was able to fight it, and I tell you this,
okay.
once we, all got shut down and everything, my daughter and I, we started researching as far as what we can do to build our immune systems. And, so we were ordering all kinds of elderberry and all kinds of, natural herbs to build the immune system. And so the first time we got tested in November, they offered us a flu shot while we were getting tested. So of course we took it.
Okay.
But I truly believe it was bad. Now, let me tell you, it was bad. I battled it without having to go to the hospital, and I thank God for that. But
Mhm.
I truly believe the reason why I made it through without the hospital stay was
Yeah.
due to all those herbs we took to build our immune system
Right.
and that flu shot. I
Look
truly
at that.
believe that combination helped me make it through COVID.
How long did you feel pretty acutely ill? Was it a couple of days or a couple of weeks?
It was a week, and I never had, well, I guess I had a temperature in the beginning, but you could feel the fluid in your lungs, and I was really afraid to go to sleep. The best advice I got from someone, a friend of mine, was don't lay on your back.
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah, lay on your stomach or just sit up and sleep sitting up. And that was the best advice I could have received, because you had to cough that stuff up to keep it from just controlling your lungs. And so at nighttime it got worse, and of course I was quite afraid at night, but I made sure that if I did fall off to sleep, I was sitting up while I did it. Drank a lot of hot
Yeah.
liquids. They tell you that brought it up really good. So
What
yeah.
was the isolation like? So you're going through this horrible symptomatic illness, and not your family can't really be around you. I mean, speak to the isolation that you experienced. So you're going through this by yourself in your room,
Mhm.
isolated. What was that like?
It's very scary.
Oh, I can
So
imagine.
nobody's there with you. I mean, usually when you get a cold, you have somebody bringing you
That's right.
tea and soup, but there's nobody there. So my fear was, I'm here by myself in this room, and what if I die? You
Mm-hmm.
know, my
Mm-hmm.
daughter was frantic one day because I wasn't answering her phone calls. She was even afraid. She said, "Mom, I was about to get in my car and come to that location."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Understand.
so I did have a lot of support from friends calling, checking on me, but
Okay.
it's nothing like having somebody there to take the temperature and making sure you get in that soup. I mean, you're sick and you have to get up and do all this stuff yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it
So
was rough.
So I guess when you're at the height of your illness, there was really no focus on your business. You weren't thinking about your business at that
No,
point. You were
not
thinking about
getting,
living,
yeah,
getting
living
better,
for my
recovering.
my family. I didn't infect my family members. And we've just always been so careful. I have an 85-year-old mom. And in the beginning, she didn't understand why we weren't coming and visiting. But
Yes.
I think as the months grew, she realized, and
Mhm.
we made sure she always had on a mask and gloves. And sometimes and my brother lives with her, who's disabled as well. And
Okay.
so they
Okay.
would call me to come over and change the light bulb, or I would send groceries to them or something of that nature. And I was diagnosed the week that I took her to her doctor's appointments. So I was with her twice. But I
Okay.
knew I wasn't feeling well, so I wasn't sure whether or not it was my allergies. I was just hoping that it was.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I made
Right.
sure I doubled up on the mask and I wore
Hmm.
gloves at all times. So, you
You
know,
have Do you have any sense? I know it's so hard to trace where you potentially contracted the virus. Do you have any ideas where possibly you contracted it?
the shop.
At the shop, at the workplace.
Yep, and the CDC was certain that that's where it came from, because they call you and you backtrack. And because I was so careful about what I do, because you just stay home and
Right.
you go to the shop. And I was pretty much the designated grocery shopper, but I
Yes.
definitely always wore my gloves and mask. Took the gloves off before you get in the car. Put your
Yeah.
hand sanitizer on. So I was really careful going to the grocery store, and you're not there, but more than maybe
That's
15.
right.
So
That's right.
they definitely narrowed it down to the shop. And I actually remember the exact day it happened, because I had gotten in these new face masks, and
Mhm.
they were treated masks. So if any germ, were to come to the mask, it would kill it, but
Yeah.
it couldn't fit my face. So
Yeah.
this whole day, I think I was there on a Friday. I was fumbling with this mask and didn't have
Mm-hmm.
on any gloves, just fumbling with it, trying. My hands were in my face all day. And then I thought
Yeah.
about it. I was like, darn, you've had your hands in your face all day trying to
All
fit
day
the mask in
long.
your face.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Monday, I think it was the following week I was diagnosed. Yeah.
So that really, for the business owners who have to go into their place of business,
Mhm.
we want to make sure that they follow the protocols and be very
Yes.
diligent of observing distance, wearing the mask, wiping things down,
Wearing
wearing
the
gloves
gloves.
if you have to.
Gloves are important when you're in a retail space. It's important to wear
Mhm.
gloves. I mean,
Yeah,
in the beginning, they were talking about not receiving money and trying to just do, the touchless purchases and either Cash App or Apple Pay or whatever.
right,
But people have cash, and some
right.
don't have Cash Apps, and I can't afford to turn away cash, so you take the cash. So I did bring in, and that's another reason I'm upset with myself, because I brought in gloves for everybody to use, but
Mhm.
I didn't use them that day. And who's to say the gloves, wouldn't have, given me the virus as well. But anyway, you try to protect yourself as much as you can. So
You
the gloves,
do.
mask, the hand sanitizer.
In the mental health industry, of course, our work requires that we are with people. We do therapy, we do individual therapy, we're doing assessments, and all of that clinical activity is face to face. So when the pandemic hit, of course, many of the mental health clinics had to go to a telemedicine model where we now provide therapy through this platform, Zoom
Yeah.
primarily.
Yes, yes.
Um, and so now the question is, how much confidence do we clinicians have going back into the clinic?
Hmm.
And when does that happen? And how does that happen? And do we provide the service in the same way? I mean, can I really put 10 people in a group room and do group therapy now? What does that look like? But I will tell you this, that my colleagues across the board are very, very anxious about a full-time return to a
Mm,
clinic. We're all frontline workers, so we know our responsibility. We're going to do what we have to do. But the anxiety about the return
yeah.
is really daunting. How did you feel about going back into your workspace? Was that were you reluctant to go back?
Well, not really, because I kind of faulted myself. So what I did was, they have facility people at the art center, so of course I notified the art center immediately,
Okay,
and I had them go in and do a deep steam cleaning, because they were doing
right,
that every hour in the center anyway.
right.
So I prepared the shop to go back.
Okay. Oh,
So I did my due diligence, and I
sure.
wanted to make sure that everything was safe for my customers. Nobody got this COVID as a result of me, because I did
Right.
what I was supposed to do. So yeah, I felt. I mean, you feel you're a little apprehensive at first, but
Hmm.
yeah, I felt pretty comfortable after I did all the
And you
cleaning.
said another point that I want to highlight in closing, and that is we business owners have responsibilities to our customers to protect them the best we.
Absolutely,
And so
absolutely.
we have to follow protocols and we have to be very diligent because our customers deserve that. Miss Fifi, how do people reach you directly? I know people, once we release this show, people are going to want to talk with you and learn more about how you strategically navigated this pandemic, not just from a business perspective, but just personally. And I
Yes.
really appreciate you being transparent and sharing your personal story. How can people reach out to you directly?
Okay. They can reach me. I do give out my cell. It's on my business card. So
Okay, come
they can
on.
they can reach me on 202
Mhm.
415 2613. But then
Okay,
there's a shop number as well. So
come
they
on.
could call the shop on 202 770 8303.
Okay,
They can reach me via email. It's a Gmail account. It's shopvintagecharmed@gmail.com. Or
okay.
they can come on by the shop on a Sunday, or give me a
That's right.
call and have me meet them there on the Sunday, and I'll
Okay.
be there with bells on.
Don't be surprised if I don't pull up one day and check on you.
All right.
Um, this has really been a delightful and wonderful discussion. And I appreciate again for you being so honest about the challenges that have been imposed by the pandemic, both professionally and personally. I'm
Yes.
grateful that your health has been fully restored.
Yes, thank you. Thank
And
you.
I'm so grateful for that. And we want you to continue to be healthy and continue to be safe. Again, I encourage the audience to check out Vintage and Charm. I
Yes.
mean, they're a part of our community, and we want you to support them and support Miss Fifi. And so thank you. In closing, is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience on a positive note to the struggling business owners? And can you give us one word of encouragement
I mean,
or,
just
or, or, you know, a statement of encouragement to those who are still in the struggle trying to make their business last through this?
yes, just keep the hope and the faith. Don't be ashamed to reach out. I mean, to reach out to your
Yeah.
fellow business owners and to your customers. Ask for a donation, and don't be afraid to do that. If you're not getting it, unfortunately, from the state, ask for donations.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Miss Lynette Voss, Miss Fifi, DC native, business owner, fashion extraordinaire. We appreciate your time. We thank you for your time and for the information you gave us. And for our audience, if you want more information about who we are and what we do here at Prestige, please visit our website at prestigecommunityresources.org. Thank you so much for joining this episode with us today. It has been a pleasure. Until next time, stay safe, stay well.